Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Harmony Illustrated Encyclopedia of Rock. As you can tell by looking at this book, it has seen better days. It's a bit beaten up, but it still holds a place in my heart. I've loved good old rock and roll for most of my life, and this book really gave me some fantastic information about some of my favorite rock bands, as well as introduced a plethora of new acts to me. So how did I manage to come across such a fine literary masterpiece? Well, it was back in the early 80s when my life was so simple. I was a restaurant cook, and my life consisted of cook, party, sleep. Cook, party, sleep. Cook, party, sleep. This was after high school, and I had no plans of attending college until several years later. How life changes, right? Back in those easygoing days, one of the local radio stations where I lived had what is called Rock Quiz. The DJ, different kind of DJ back in those days. The DJ would give out some clues to a rock band, and the first caller with the correct answer won the prize of the day. My very first victory was the Harmony Illustrated Encyclopedia of Rock. I went to the radio station, picked up my prize, and spent the next several weeks of my free time sitting on my old recliner, just poring over the pages over and over again. I truly enjoyed learning about these rock acts, and the information helped me to win so many more rock quizzes afterwards. This was the time before the internet, so my friends would often rely on my knowledge whenever they would have discussions or questions about rock groups, songs, albums, and so on. It felt good to help out. With that in mind, let's take a look at the opening pages of this book to get some insight as to its origins. So here we are back at the beginning with the book's cover. Let's take a look at what information we can gather from the first few pages. Here we can see that this is the third edition of this book with a great picture of John Lennon. Next up, we have some rather unnecessary information along with a picture of old school Iron Maiden. Next up, we have some publishing and credits information alongside Mama Cass and some guy who really seems to like beer a lot. Cool. The next page features some acknowledgments and picture credits accompanied by photos of Sir Paul McCartney and the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer. Wearing gloves might have been a bad idea. Live and learn, right? Anyway. Now I'm highlighting this page here as it shows what I suppose is the head writer, Mike Clifford, as well as the year he wrote this. You can see that this was done in 1982. In his writings, Mr. Clifford mentioned that there was an entire section of this book dedicated to the 80s. He mentioned something about how the acts featured within the section will best symbolize that particular decade. Now, bear in mind that he wrote this passage at the beginning of the 80s. If any of you remember that era, you may recall that it was quite, eccentric, to put it nicely. So, once we get to that chapter, there may be some disagreements. So, let's just jump in and start with the A category, shall we? ABBA! Yeah! We're already at a crossroads here. Are ABBA really considered a rock band? Well, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2010, so I don't know. Actually, as we shall see throughout this book, there are many groups and solo artists who may not necessarily be classified as, quote, rock acts, end quote. Once again, arguments may ensue. Anyway, back to ABBA. I've never been a huge fan of theirs, and I do have some personal memories associated with this group from when I was in high school. My dad had their greatest hits double album, and he would play it over and over and over again almost every day. This was also during the time my parents were getting a divorce. I remember Mom worked at night, and when Dad would get home, he'd pour a Beam and Coke and sit on the couch listening to this album while quietly smoking and drinking. My dad expressed no animosity or had any drunken rants or anything of that nature, just silence. I didn't spend a lot of time hanging around the house at that time, since I had my own thing going on with my friends, but when I was there, that damned record would be playing. So, yeah, kind of a negative connotation with this particular band. Ace. I got nothing here except that apparently Paul Carrack was in the band. I remember him from Squeeze and Mike and the Mechanics. Moving on. Aerosmith, yeah, definitely a staple of my rock diet for many years throughout my youth. For such a famous band, this book didn't dedicate a whole hell of a lot of time on them. They even still have Joe Perry and Brad Whitford listed as guitarists when it's been clearly documented that they left the band mid-1979. They did come back in 1984, but that wasn't mentioned either. So yeah, in the early 80s, Aerosmith for sure had a lot of bad shit going on. Good to know that they eventually got cleaned up. By the way, the book Walk This Way is an excellent bio on the group, which I highly recommend. It's a very good read, and you'll find yourself wondering how the hell they survived after all the drugs and booze. Although I'm not a big fan of their later stuff, their earlier material is definitely classic rock and roll. Jan Ackerman, or Ackerman, I don't know. Yeah, again, I got nothing on this guy. From what I read, he played guitar on the instrumental hit Hocus Pocus. That's a good one. Good heavy rock guitar there indeed. The Allman Brothers Band. If an act is so big and popular, this book highlights them with larger print on the intro. Yeah, Allman Brothers are another great example of good old rock and roll. They fall under the category of Southern rock, and there are plenty of other fantastic bands in that particular genre. Once again, the Allman Brothers were a staple of my rock diet as a youth, and I still enjoy their songs. Especially, that double live album. Ooh, that is some really good stuff. Oh, man. While I was wrapping up editing this video, I saw the news that Dickie Betts passed away. Oh boy. Rest in peace, my brother. Your music will always remind us of what a great musician and person you are. Man, I feel old. Amazing Rhythm Aces. The only song I know of theirs is Third Rate Romance, which to me sounds rather country-like. Yeah, that's about it. America. Adult contemporary or easy listening group who were often chastised as Neil Young ripoffs. I liked their songs, and I found out through this book that they were all actually military brats who got together in England. Who'd have thought? Amen Duel 2, I think that's how you say it. Nope, I got nothing. German band, apparently. Eric Anderson. Sorry, nothing here either. The Animals. Yep, I got a few of their tracks in my iTunes. Eric Burdon definitely had some distinctive and powerful vocals. I'm a reasonably big fan. Area code 615. Huh, interesting name. Sorry, nothing to say here, really. Argent. I only know that song Hold Your Head Up from way back in the day. I think it's still on my computer somewhere. Interestingly enough, Argent wrote God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which was covered by Kiss in 1991. The more you know, right? Joan Armatrading. I only remember that song, Me, Myself, I. That's about it. Peter Asher. According to the passage here, he was a big-time producer after being in a pop duo. Good for him, but sorry, never heard of him. Moving on. Asleep at the Wheel. Yeah, no, nothing. Pete Atkins / Clive James. Again, I got nothing. I did find the inclusion of the word vituperative to be interesting. Don't see this word very often. Means very angry and abusive criticism. There's your English lesson for the day. You're welcome. Chet Atkins. Don't know much about this guy. According to the book, he was a session guitarist and producer who helped to create the Nashville sound. Cool. Thanks, buddy. Atlanta Rhythm Section. Huh. I wonder where they're from. I only know that one song, So Into You. An easy listening adult contemporary track. Yeah, good song. But yeah, that's all I know about them. Anywho, Atomic Rooster. This was the band Carl Palmer was in after his stint with the Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and before he achieved fame and immortality with Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Brian Auger, I think. Don't know much about this guy, but apparently he had quite a number of famous names working with him. Long John Baldry, Rod Stewart, Julie Driscoll, and an early member of Fleetwood Mac, David Ambrose. Huh, cool. Average White Band. I still remember the song Pick Up the Pieces, and instrumental with a little bit of chorus in there. And I always thought they were kind of a funk act, you know, like Sly and the Family Stone or Earth, Wind and Fire. Upon reading this, it turned out that they were from Scotland. What?
What?
Hoyt Axton. Now, this guy's got one hell of a story. Did you know that his mom actually wrote Heartbreak Hotel, the Elvis classic? How cool is that? Apparently, his songs were covered by acts like Steppenwolf and Three Dog Night, among others. I think most of us remember him from his performance in Gremlins in 1984, but if you look at his Wikipedia page, you'll be quite surprised at how many movies and TV shows he was in throughout his lifetime. Quite the life indeed. Kevin Ayers. Don't know this guy, to be honest. It looks like he was in Soft Machine, which was a very early progressive rock band in the 60s. Alright, good for him. So, let's call it a day at this point. I plan to go through the 80s section that I mentioned in the introduction in a future video. Let me know what you think, and be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so as to improve my algorithm. And feel free to chip in a few bucks to my pay accounts listed in the description below. Until next time, keep on rockin'.